to the cloud. Okay. So good evening, everybody. Today is a bit of a continuation on the previous year that that I gave on feminism, that I already shared with you. I spoke to women and I shared with you. As we explained that Chava was actually born in the Gan Eden, as you remember. It was Chava was born, the second Chava, second Chava was born in the Gan Eden, when Hashem created in the Gan Eden, and actually never sent it out. It was the Gerush of the Gan Eden was not to Chava but only to Odom, and therefore we explained that Chava has a very high connection with the Gan Eden, and this world, which is the outside world, is not her natural habitat. The natural habitat of Chava is in a kind of a Gan Eden, and her mission, her motto of a woman is therefore what the Torah calls le'ovdo u'leshomro, which I translated it as servitude and protection. This is what women do. They don't feel comfortable in this world. This is a man's world, as the song goes, and they don't feel very comfortable, and so they recreate their homes as being a little Gan Eden. The idea behind the Gan Eden, the purpose of the Gan Eden, we also explained, is that the whole purpose of the creation, as one of the mahalchim that I'm pushing in many of my shiurim, is that the Gan Eden, the world is a place where the Rebbeinu Shalom can reside. So the whole idea of the Rebbeinu Shalom, he decided he wants to live in this world. So he created the world, he wanted to live in the world, and he created the Gan Eden, and then he put man to actually serve him, to protect the place where he can live. And so the idea is that a sin, the chet of a man, he actually chases the Rebbeinu Shalom away. And can everybody put himself on mute, please? So the idea is that the chet from a person chases the Rebbeinu Shalom away, but originally the whole idea, as always, is that the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to live in this world. So the Gan Eden was the first trial of the Rebbeinu Shalom. It was not a big success. After 1 hour already, the whole idea was over. And basically, it says, Chazal tell us that the Shechina went up, and the Shechina came already, started to go down already by our overs. Avram took it one step. There were 7 steps up and then 7 steps down till the Mishkan was created. And then the Mishkan is the place where the Rebbeinu Shalom, the Shechina, can reside, and the Beis Hamikdash also will be based on the whole idea that we have a bedroom of the bedroom, the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's where the place where the holiest of the place is, where the Rebbeinu Shalom resides, at least the Shechina. What we see very interesting is that Chazal tell us, Rashi brings it in Chumash, is that when Rivko, when Yitzchak took in Rivko in the oil of his mother Sorah, then all the nisim that happened in the oil of Sorah Imenu happened again. And what were those nisim? Is that if somebody remembers maybe, but it was that the candle that she light on Friday night started, like they lit till the next Friday. So it was a nest that the ner it is started, and when she did it, it was burning the whole week. You can already feel a little bit of where I want to go to, but in any case. And then the second thing is that the bread had the siman brocha when they took chalas. The idea was that there was a brocha in the bread, and then also that there was an onon just on top of the oil. The onon represents the Shechina again. So we see that the Shechina actually in a certain form already came down, not on the Avram, but really it was on the oil of Sorah Imenu. So it is the woman that I explained you, the woman which represents basically the Shechina, because the idea, like I explained you, that it is the woman that was created in the Gan Eden. Therefore also the Shechina is in the female form. And Kodesh Baruch is always Zocher, but the Shechina is in Loshen Kevo. And we see that the Klal Yisrael, in order to be Zocher, to go back in Eretz Yisrael, they had to build a Beis Hamikdash, which was similar to the oil of Sorah Imenu, where the Shechina could reside. And indeed, the breads, which are the Lechem Aponim, we see there is a very nice similarity, parallelism between the oil of Sorah and the Beis Hamikdash. It's like the Ramban explained, that before the Klal Yisrael can go into Eretz Yisrael, they have to get back to the same level as our Avoseinu, And this is the Beis Hamikdash. The Mishkan is actually the representation of the oil of sorrow, because the bread, which are the lechem apunim, the light, which is the menorah, and the shchina, the onon, which is the ktoires, ki beonen eroa la kapoires. This is the whole idea that is the whole avodas hamikdash, which was actually recreated as the oil of our mothers. Not only that, we even see that the whole femininity in the Beis Hamikdash is very big. For example, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, when you looked at the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you saw the poroiches, and when you looked at the poroiches, what you saw is the two badim of the Oroin were protruding inside the poroiches. They were like pushing a little bit inside of the poroiches. So when a person looked in on the poroiches, he saw as if there was a woman behind that, and the breast was actually sticking out a little bit of the poroiches. It's also, Chazal brings it down. You see very clearly that it is the women which actually, as they have also a neshama which is higher than men. It is through the woman and the female, the symbolism of the Shechina is actually the reason why the Shechina can come down in this world and can reside in the Beis Hamikdash. We also explained that a few times a year there is Pashtus HaShechina, so there is a democratization of the Shechina. Not always the Shechina is in the Beis Hamikdash. Sometimes the Shechina comes and is in our sukkahs. Even in time Beis Hamikdash, the Shechina went into the sukkah, as the Chazal explain us in the Zoya, but also the Chazal. I gave you a lot of rice from the Gemara in sukkah that the Shechina is really residing on the schach. That the schach is represents the onon where the Shechina is residing, and that's why they have the Oira Makiv and the Chabad. They don't even sleep in the sukkah because they can't sleep in the sukkah which the Shechina is there. So they will explain you the whole element. And in Pesach also we are taking away the chometz from our homes, is because they're also like in the Beis Hamikdash, you're not allowed to bring chometz, you're not allowed to be ma'afed the mincha, and also kichol se'or v'chol dvash lo yisaktiru. Instead of lo yisaktiru se'or and dvash, what do? We eat matzah and moroy. So we do the opposite, which we do, and in order to show as if the home is like a little Beis Hamikdash, during 2 times a year at least, that there is what we call it Pashtus HaShechina in Klal Yisrael. But the main Shechina is actually in the Beis Hamikdash, and there is sometimes in Pashtus. After the Churban, when the Churban came along, then the Chazal don't mention that the Shechina went back up. When by the Gan Eden, it is mentioned when after the Gan Eden, after the Chet, the Shechina went back up 7 levels, and then came back down 7 levels. It never mentions, unless I haven't seen, maybe you will find a stira against what I just said to you, but normally it's not really mentioning that the Shechina went back up. It just left the Beis Hamikdash, and then the expression that is used in the Kabbalist is that the Shechinte begeluso. So basically the Shechina came with us in Golus. So it's not like he went back up, but he actually followed us. And where is he? So he is in all our homes. So it is in our homes and in our Botei Midrashim, as Chazal tell us, that the Shechina is both in the homes of the people and also in when there's when the Sholem Bayis, then there is the Shechina imatem bos lebeisi ani over el beischem. So basically, as Hillel says, so the Boisham comes to our homes, and also in our Botei Midrashim when there is a minyan, as already the Gemara in Brochas explained. But before the Churban, there is before the Churban happened, the second Churban, there was a story that we all know, which is a story of the Hashmonaim. Now, what is interesting is that this story has normally there is not a lot of external sources that you can compare to what Chazal tell us. So we know certain stories we can only know because Chazal tell us, and there is no historian or historical books that are describing the same story, so that we can a bit least compare. Sometimes it's kedai to compare, like the Netziv always says, you should always, when you learn the Gemara, and there is also the She'iltas is written in the time of the Goinim that describe that Gemara. It's kedai to read the She'iltas because the She'iltas sometimes adds a few words, tells the same story, but adds a few words which explains you the whole Gemara in a completely different way than sometimes even Rashi would explain it. And because the She'iltas is another source and it comes from earlier than Rashi, and so sometimes you understand in a different way the story that happened, or the Gemara, the question and the answer, it's always kedai to check on external sources in order to just better understand what our Chazal are telling us. So basically the story that we are told and that the Chazal are maintaining, which is also brought down by the Tur and the Shulchan Aruch, is the following. There was a war, we won the war, we were trying to light candles, there was not enough shemen, we put one cut shemen and these burned for 8 days, and since then we have decided to celebrate 8 days of a kind of a Yom Tov. It's a mutter b'mlocha, but kind of it's a halal lehoidos. So basically loidos halal, meaning that we have to say ananissim, we have to say halal, and also we have to light the candles. So we have actually 3 things, and then 2 averes. We're not allowed to make a hesped and not a tainis on those days. But basically this is the traditional way of the story that happened in the time of the Chashmonoim. There is a lot of problems with that. There's a lot of problems. There's some historical problems with that story. And I will just briefly already, I think a year ago already, or 2 years ago already discussed them. But there are certain problems in external sources which are actually challenging a little bit that story. There's one question which has always come back, is that in the Al Anissim, we don't even mention the Ness of the Menorah. We only mention the Ness of the Nitzuchen, but we don't mention the Ness of the Menorah. That is already a first problem. But there are other sources that we have found today, that we know today, that are also giving a little bit of a different story as it is described by Chazal. So which are the other sources? First of all, we have the Megillas Antiochus. The Megillas Antiochus, it's not part of the Sefer Toires that we have. So there is also, like Megillas Esther, there is also Megillas Antiochus. The person who wrote it, he obviously wanted it to become like a Megillas Esther, but it did not manage to become one of the Chov Dalet Sforim of the Tanakh. And in the Megillas Antiochus, you have more or less the same story. There is maybe a little bit more of where he adds on some more. He speaks about the Ness. He does speak about the Ness that happened, but it seems like that they created the Yemei Mishte v'Simcha. The Yemei Mishte v'Simcha is not accepted by us, so we don't make. There is no chiyuv to make a Mishte, like Yom Tov, like eating and Simcha, and also not that it seems that there was also kind of an Isur Melucha, that they made it. It is written there, Kimei Moyadim Aksuvim Batoira. So it's not clear what does it mean, Kimei Moyadim Aksuvim Batoira. Either means that it's 8 days of Yom Tov, or that it is Isur Melucha. So it seems that in Megillas Antiochus there is kind of a little bit of an Isur Melucha. But he does mention that there is a Ness that happened by the Nerois, and also that there is a mitzvah to light the candles. So there it's written. So Megillas Antiochus is the closest to source, external source, that is aligned with our Chazal, the story of the Braise in the Bavli. So that's which is accepted also in the Tur, as I explained you, and Shulchan Aruch. That's how our official version is. But there are multiple other sources, and I will start maybe with the one which is the least of maybe accepted sources, but still the Vilna Gaon says that you can learn it. It's Josephus. Josephus already wrote also very briefly, he wrote the story of the Chashmonoim. And it's interesting that there he does not mention the Ness of the Nerois. He doesn't mention the Ness. And not only that, he mentions the fact, something very, very frightening, because he mentions that the Chanukah was called the Chag Urim, the festival of lights. And he says he doesn't know why, but he says probably kind of because the Klal Yisrael, after the Nitzuchen, they went from Afelo le'oiro. So they went from darkness to light. So it's more of a symbol of Nitzuchen, but he doesn't know why. So that's very strange. Josephus, who lived in Eretz Yisrael, who followed, he knew everything that's going on in the Beis Hamikdash, is quite a big historian and a Jew who was kind of, I'm not going to say he was a very super religious person, but at least he had some religious upbringing, and he learned a little bit. We can see in his forum that how he brings down Torah mitzvahs, the Tayag mitzvahs, he mentions them, a lot of them. So he was a bit of a learned person. He lived in a Jewish community, was raised in it, and he says that Chanukah, yeah, I don't know why they call it the light, the festivity of the lights, probably because it went from darkness to light. So it's a very difficult. How can you say that you don't know why, if we assume that straight after the Nitzuchen, everybody had to light candles. So of course, it's a light of it's a Chag Urim, because people had to light candles. So there is already something very, very strange that cannot be explained normally. And it seems from this that originally in the time of after the Churban, that the people did not yet light candles straight away. That it took a while for the mitzvah of lighting candles in the homes, took a while, and was not straight after the Churban, which is clearly, or let's say nearly clearly, like 80–90% in the Loshen Rambam, seems to be contradicting that. That the Oisoi Doir, the Chachomim from the Oisoi Doir, they actually started already the union of Lohoidus Ulehalel and also Lahadlik Neiros, the Chatzeroisehem. So it was clearly not like the Rambam, but we'll discuss that later a little bit. That the Rambam might have, the Raivet might disagree with the Rambam on that one. But it seems that in historian, they don't seem to be mentioning that. And the historian, we're talking about somebody who lived in Eretz Yisrael, who saw the Churban, he was there, and then he says that he doesn't know why they called it Chag Urim, the festival of the lights. So this is a very interesting external source. There is another source, which is there are two books which they also found, which is the Sefer Hashmonoim. Some call it also the Sefer Maccabeim, Maccabi, and they have two, like you have Melochim Aleph, Melochim Beis. They also have Hashmonoim Aleph and Hashmonoim Beis. So you have two Sforim of them. I don't know where it's who exactly kept it and who exactly saved it. My guess is that it was unfortunately, thanks to the Christian libraries, which we know that the Christians they tried to, the Catholics especially with first Kaiser Caesar Augustinus, he actually tried to save. He actually decided to keep all those books. And thanks to them, we have the book today of Ben Siro. The Ben Siro, they printed it, the Christian printed it, and we had a version which is in Aramaic and in German, and it was somebody that retranslated it to Loshen HaKodesh, and we indeed see that the psukim that Chazal bring from the Ben Siro was also the same. So there is this, all these books were very holy by the Christians, by us. They were considered as Sifrei Chitzonim, and therefore they kind of got lost a little bit. And today we have them back. But it's very interesting to see the Sefer Hashmonoim. Hashmonoim Aleph, it describes the nest, the story that happened, and Hashmonoim Beis, this is more, as much as I understand, it is a letter that the Hashmonoim wrote to the Jews in Egypt who did not experience the harshness and the difficulties from the Yevonim, but actually they lived in quite in a peaceful and a lot of prosperity in Alexandria. And the Hashmonoim tried to convince the Jews that they should also participate in the Yom Tov of the Jews of Eretz Yisrael. The Jews of Eretz Yisrael managed to fight off the enemies, and apparently the Jews of Egypt were not very convinced, or need a little bit of a convincing to create a Yom Tov that should be a universal Yom Tov forever, in order to commemorate the Nitzochen that the Hashmonoim had on Eretz Yisrael. However, in those books, in the two books, in Hashmonoim, which describes in very much detail everything that happened, there is no mentioning at all of the Nes Ner as well. So the Nes that happened with the Neros in the Beis Hamikdash is not mentioned at all in the book of the Hashmonoim, not Aleph and not Beis. There is, however, something very interesting, that in the Maccabi Aleph, so in the first, the reason why the Yom Tov was considered 8 days is because it is similar to the Chanukah HaMizbeach of Shlomo HaMelech. So also, as Shlomo HaMelech did the Chanukah HaMizbeach for Chanukah Habayis for 8 days, which is strange because as much as I know, it was only 7 days, but I will not. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not. I should check it before this year, but I forgot. But this is one of the things I need to check. But anyways, it's reminded there also that like Shlomo Melech did the Chanukah's Abayis 8 days, so they also the Chanukah's Mizbeach, that when the Hashmonaim did, they also did it for 8 days, similar to Shlomo Melech. So this is one reason why they did the 8 days. There is no mentioning of the Nes Neiros at all. And then in the Maccabi Beis, it is more explicit that the idea behind the 8 days is because they did not manage to celebrate Sukkot for 8 days. So Chanukah is about a few months after Sukkot, and since they could not do the Sukkot properly, but they did the Sukkot up in the mountains and in the Maharas, hidden in the Maharas, in the grots, and so they felt that they did not perform the Sukkot in a very very nice way. So they decided to take the to celebrate from now on, Baruch Hashem. Now that we have back control of the Beis Hamikdash, we will celebrate the Sukkot that we could not celebrate. We'll celebrate for 8 days on Chof Hey Kislev. So I will just read it to you inside. Vayichugu Chag LaHashem Shmoines Yomim Kimei Chag HaSukkos, like the days of Sukkot. Vayizkiru es hayomim mikedem bechogegem es Chag HaSukkos behorim uvemaros. And in order to remember, because they remembered how they had to celebrate Chag HaSukkos in the mountains of Amaras. Vayitu b'Shimon kebeim asodeh. So they were there, mamish. They were stuck. They felt that they were not happy about it. And then it says in Pasuk Yud, vayikchu arvei nachal v'kapos tumorem. Not only that, vayishiru shir shevach v'odo el Hashem asher nosan lohem oizu tishua letayres beis mikdosho. They even took on Chof Hei Bekislev. They took an arvei nachal and the kapos tumorem. It's very clearly they even took an arovas and they took lulovim and they were dancing and they were singing. This was really kind of so here again there is no mentioning at all of the ness of the Neiros. The reason why it was 8 days, according to Maccabi Beis, is because they did not had the opportunity to celebrate Sukkot properly, and so therefore they decided to do it also on 8 days. The Maccabi Aleph Vayechugu es Chanukah Samizbeach Shmoines Yomim, and then he also asked everybody to celebrate it in Chagas Sukkot, so like the 8 days of the Chanukah Samizbeach. And therefore in the Hashmonaim Beis he says, V'sho'alnu michem, so he speaks to the Jews who are living in Mitzrayim. HaYehudim asher b'Yerushalayim u'v'oretz Yehuda lachem HaYehudim b'Mitzrayim sholom v'yesharov. So it's a letter to those Jews, and he explains them Hashem Elokim v'orech eschem, and he explains them how we won. V'sho'alnu michem lochu kimonu es Chanukah's hamizbeach b'yerach Kislev. So he is very clearly that the word Chanukah comes from the Chanukah's HaMizbeach. If you know, there is a big debate on why exactly are we calling Chanukah. Some say because Chanukah's HaMizbeach. That's the thing most of the people think, but there is a lot of, in the Rishonim, there's a lot of problems on the reason why it is called Chanukah, or it's because Chanukah, because they rested on as a mitzuchen. And he says also in Hashmonaim Beis, he says, so he explained it, Kain also Shloime Bakriv es Kebonoisov Lashem Shmoinas Yomim. So we see here that the element of the 8 days that we are celebrating is either as similar to the 8 days that Shlomo Melech used for Chanukah's Habayis, or it is to celebrate the Sukkot that we don't have. Or as a third reason is the reason why we do 8 days is that we are doing it the 8 days as Kimei Moyadim. So it is the same 8 days that we are doing, like the 8 days that we have a Moyad. A Moyad is a Yom Tov. Is it says v'choko is a moem lasa shmoin yom moela ime mishte v'simcha kimei moyadim aksuvim batoira. Like the same days as they are moyadim in the Torah. So also, even in the Megillas Antiochus, who mentions the Nes, does not mention that the 8 days were because there was a Nes of 8 days, but simply because since the same, more or less similar to what it says in Hashmonoim, since they could not perform Yom Tov properly, so all the days that did not perform properly, which are the 8 days of Yom Tov, which is Rosh Chodesh, which is called the Moed as well. I think we'll see in Tainis and Daf Yomi, we'll soon see it. There is a Rosh Chodesh, then we have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. I mean, I'll start with Pesach, Shvi Shel Pesach, Shavuos. Then we have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and we have Sukkah first days and the 8th day of Sukkah. So there are 8 days of Moyadim, and in the numbers of those Moyadim, the Hashmonoim decided and suggested to have the 8 days. So we see here very clearly that there's very little source besides the Braise in the Gemara that the reason why we're doing 8 days is because of the Nes that happened. So the Aruch HaShulchan, I found Baruch Hashem, I found Aruch HaShulchan, and the Aruch HaShulchan actually confirms that theory. He also brings down from the Sefer Hashmonoim. He brings it down, and his theory is exactly what I was going to tell you now, is the following. The original reason why we have 8 days was, like I explained you, for multiple reasons. But they instituted that Yom Tov. How did we know that this is a good, that Rebbeinu Shloim agreed? He says that the Nes of the 8 days is just here to confirm that the Yom Tov of 8 days, the Rebbeinu Shloim agrees, Min HaShamayim, they agreed to that din, to that new mitzvah, to celebrate a Yom Tov of 8 days. So that is originally the pshat according to the other sources. Again, the Tur, the Shulchan Aruch, we are not passing like that. In our view, the 8 days is because of the Nes, and therefore the question is, why 8 days and why not 7? The Beis Yosef questions and all the Terutzim that goes there. But if you look at all the other sources, like the Hashmonoim, like the 2 books of Hashmonoim, like Josephun, like which are missing at all the Nes, it seems that the Nes was only an accessory to the whole story, because it was only to confirm that the Yom Tov of 8 days that the Hashmonoim instituted was accepted by Shemaim as something which can be spread and exist further away as well. I mean, in the next generation. So it's a very different view than the original, than the idea that we have received already as a child, and which is of course the one which is being taken by most of the poskim. Any questions so far? Okay. Now, so when was the lighting of the candles started? So when did it start really? So I already mentioned the last time that my feeling was that it started later. As I explained to you, Josephus did not mention it. So apparently in the time of Josephus, it was not existing. And then I found a Mishnas Yavets. And the Mishnas Yavets is from Rov of Yerushalayim, Rabbi Yaakov Bezalel Jolti. And he brings down very clearly, he has on Orachaim, Chelek Orachaim, he brings down very clearly in Siman Ein Gimel Mitzvahs Ner Chanukah that according to the Raavad, that's why he wants to explain, that according to the Raavad, the mitzvah of lighting candles only started after the Churban. So the whole mitzvah of lighting candles only started after the Churban Beis Hamikdash. And he wants to say that also Rashi is mashma like that, and also from the Ran is a little bit mashma like that, that the whole idea of the lighting candles only can start after the Churban Beis Hamikdash, because the lighting of the candles is a zeicher to the lighting of the candles that was in the Beis Hamikdash. So it's a bit interesting why dafke like that, but this is only a zeicher to the lighting of the candles. He wants to learn that the whole, because the Raavad says that the reason why we are saying in Chanukah le hadlik ner shel Chanukah, and not as the Loshen should be on the Rabbanon al hadlokas neiros Chanukah, which should be the proper Loshen, not le hadlik. So the Raavad says, maybe he says, because what we are lighting candles is a zeicher for the adloka that was in the Beis Hamikdash, and the adloka in the Beis Hamikdash was le hadlik. So basically it's a zecher. So he wants to say the whole mitzvah of lighting candles today is that's his raya to say that it was only after the Churban of the Beis Hamikdash. So we have here something very, very interesting, where the Rambam clearly mentions that it was on the same door already, and the other Rishonim brings down from Rashi and from the Ram that hold that the whole lighting of the candles only came later. Now, when we come back to that story, and we are saying that after the Churban, we started to light candles in the homes, and we are accepting the fact that the Shechina never went back up but came into the homes. And the reason why they came into the homes are for the women. It is the women that are actually the reason why the Shechina can feel, because it is the woman that represents the Shechina, and they are L'Ovdo L'Shomro. So that's we see indeed that there are a few very strange haluchas that we are still having in Chanukah, which is one of them is indeed that there is a minik already brought down from the early Rishonim that women did not perform meluchas on these 8 days, probably only meluchas of Yom Tov, so cooking they're allowed to, but the other meluchas not. The minig that is already brought down, I have to check in the halacha, but is during the lighting of the candles. Only women are not making a melucha, which is strange. Why women dafke? What about men? And so here we see, because for women it is taka a Yom Tov, because for them the Shechina was originally centralized in the Yerushalayim. After the Churban, the Shechina, we have the schus to have the Shechina now in our homes, thanks to the women who are the source of the Shechina that we have in our home today. So therefore, it's a very interesting thing. And also there is an halucha which I didn't know, but once I traveled abroad. I was for one night. I was not at home. I was in Romania, I think I was, and the Rov told me that basically the best thing to do is that the chiyuv of lighting candles is where the wife is. So since my wife is at home, I should make her shliach to light candles, and better to light in the home, because it's the chiyuv is in the home. So you see here again that the whole chiyuv of the lighting the candles is not for us just to make pirsum nisse, but it's a chiyuv to celebrate the light inside our homes and to go outside to the other nations. So it is really like like we celebrate the as I say, the democratization of the avodas hamikdash in our homes, and therefore we sing lahadlik ner shel Chanukah, like the Kohen Gadol said when he was lighting the candles in the Beis Hamikdash. So you see very clearly here that it fits a lot with the story that I was just telling you, that it is thanks to the women, and it is actually ispashtus of the Beis Hamikdash, and this is what we celebrate with Hanukkah. What with Hanukkah we celebrate, it's kind of a bitter-sweet thing. It's bittersweet because on one hand, we lost the Beis Hamikdash. On the other hand, we have the opportunity to kind of rekindle the lights that were in the Beis Hamikdash. We can rekindle it, and the Shechina actually, instead of being centralized in Yerushalayim, it is among us, the Shechina Begelus, it is with us, and it is thanks to the women actually that it is with us. And another point that I wanted to add on, but that's already a political message, is already I discussed that the reason why we say Hatoiv HaMeitiv, Chazal tell us, is because the dead bodies of Beitar. And it was a story of Bar Kokhba. Bar Kokhba revolted against the Romans, and everybody was very happy. And then there was a big fashla, and they all died, and the bodies were left for, I don't know, for many months or years, and then they were allowed to bury them. The Bonshor made a nest that their bodies were still intact. They were not taken by animals and by birds. They were still intact. They received the proper burial, and because of that, we made the brocha Hatoiv HaMeitiv in Benchen. So I explained why Dafke in Benchen, Hatoiv HaMeitiv, what is the connection with Benchen, etc. So I explained you that after Rachem Nu Hashem Elokeinu, that when a Jew says Rachem Nu, it says that a person should hide a knife in Benchen. A person should not have a knife, because the Rachem was actually creating very bad feelings to Jews, and there would be again a revolt against the people that were in the Golus that were ruling us. And so Chazal kind of have said, no, we're going to say Atov HaMeitiv from now on. It's a new era that has started where we have to say peacefully, sure, but not anymore revolting. The time of revolting, which the Hashmonoim did, and that's why we are lighting now the candles after the Churban, we are lighting the candles in our homes, and that also we say Atov HaMeitiv and we even not only Atov HaMeitiv, it's one of the longest brochas that exist in our time. It's like enormous brochas that Chazal have added on later on. It is really to focus on that the Rebbeinu Shalom is good, and from now on our relationship has changed, where everything was centralized in the Yerushalayim. From now on, we can have a direct relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom. Of course, we have to hope for Mashiach to come and for the Beis Hamikdash back. But on the other hand, as long as he's not here, we have to celebrate and we have to live a life of Kedusha and Tahara within our homes, and that this should be actually the representation of the Shekhinah that is amongst us. And I can continue on that last element, but it's more out of a political message to say it's enough, not anymore revolting, but from now on there is a new time. We have to accept the Golus and we have to wait for Mashiach to come. And eventually, if for those religious Zionists, of course, they will believe that it's already a Aschalte de Gula, so now is already the time to go back. So that's another discussion, but at least until 1948, for sure, the idea behind this Chazal is kind of a message to us to accept our faith and then to develop ourselves and to be besimcha and to develop ourselves and to accept the Shekhinah in our homes and in our bottom midrashim. And that's why we are lighting the candles as well. And is a kind of a zecher to the Beis Hamikdash that every home can be a Mikdash Me'at. And this is also the message that we can also give to our women, as saying that they are kind of a little bit the source for this kind of celebration. Any questions? So I will just go quickly, briefly repeat and make a summary. So we said that Chava the second were created in the Gan Eden, and that's why they have a much more affinity with the Shekhinah. We saw that the Shekhinah was on the oil of Soro Imenu, that the Shekhinah was there, the Onon was over the thing, and the light were and that's why also, since there was a nest that the light was lighting for the Hashmonoim, it's a moifus that shows that the Shekhinah has accepted the Beis Hamikdash again. So that if those who wanted to criticize the Hashmonoim for fighting against the Romans, and there is the Shvuah that Shlomo Melech, etc. So those who wanted to criticize them, so the Nes was actually showing them, and those who criticized Bar Kokhba, the Nes of what happened in Beitar and the Nes that happened in the Beis Hamikdash was kind of confirming that they had the right to revolt with physical violence against the oppression. And then we explained that there is kind of the reason why we're doing 8 days is not a general accepted. The main reason, and this is the reason that you have to tell our children that we have to continue believing, is what Chazal tell us, that it's because the Nes was 8 days. But I told you the Aruch HaShulchan already mentions, and when you look in all the external books, you find that the 8 days were either because it was Sukkot, or it's the 8 days of Yom Tov, or it's because the Chanukah Sabayis, like Shlomo Melech, that this was 8 days. And as Aruch HaShulchan explains, probably is the Nes is just confirms that those 8 days that they chose was actually a good 8 days. The mitzvah of lighting the candles seems that, according to a few Rishonim, according to some of the poskim today, seems to have happened later in a later phase, probably in the time, already started in the time of Rebbe, mamish at the end of the Tanoim, and more developed during the Amoraim. It became a proper mitzvah with the brocha, and the idea behind the lighting of the candles could be as a zecher for the lighting of the candles in the Beis Hamikdash. And it's maybe, as I want to explain, it's a bit of a message to Klal Yisrael, to saying, kind of, this, you tried 2 times already, and Baruch Hashem, you were kind of successful, but at the end of the day, it failed. Maybe now is the time to focus our internally and to look at the different relationship that we have with HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the Golus that we are in there. Of course, from 1948, then we have a split of whether or not this time is finished, and now it's time again to start, or not. That's already the machloikas between the two schools of the Zionist, and then we have the opposite, the hopeful Zionist or the anti-Zionist. But that's the message that that this Yom Tov is bringing us. Okay, any questions, remarks? It was very clear, apparently. So I'll end the recording.